welcome to DNS Live. Hope everybody's had a good week. It's been kind of a busy week for me. It's been kind of a crazy week with DNS, just as a whole, I guess we could say. We've picked up a couple more clients, and it's just getting crazy busy. We've been busy with the NPS activities as well. We've got some stuff coming up that you guys will start kind of seeing a little bit more of. We've been testing out, actually we're not really testing, but we're really doing some conversations each week. Each one of the reps has taken a week and has picked a topic, and so you'll see on the NPS page we've been talking about that. It got a little heated yesterday with one of Max's comments. So you guys, if you're out there and you're reading stuff, don't be highly offended by it. Everybody's allowed their own opinion, and we all share it and learn and grow from doing that type of stuff. So Alex has it this week. I'm not sure who has it next week. I've got my week coming up on photography. I believe mine is the second week of February, so you guys join us out there for those chit chats. I really don't have much else to catch you guys up on, other than I wanted to give a couple of shouts out to some friends of mine that I promised I'd give a shout out to. Will White with Like Paranormal has asked me to let everybody know that Wiedemeyer Academy in Belton, Texas has some availability this weekend for investigations, I believe Friday night, and then next weekend as well. So if you guys are interested, if you're in the Texas area, and you're interested in an overnight investigation, the Wiedemeyer Academy is open. There is a link to it on the DNS Paranormal Crew Facebook page. So go there and you can find it, or you can search for it on Facebook under, I think it's the Haunted Wiedemeyer Academy. So Will is looking for some people to come out and investigate the next couple of weekends, and it is a crazy active place, so get out there. Second, we have got Stacy White returning to the show next month. She has asked me to plug her website. Again, that's on the DNS Paranormal Crew Facebook page, so go out there and give Stacy some love and tell her that the crew sent you. She's going to be back on the show. And then next week we have Robin on the show. Robin's in the chat room. And we're going to have fun with that. So you guys, if y'all want to have your stomachs hurting during the show, that's the show to watch, because we're going to be little giggle boxes. I'm warning you right now. So everybody has been warned. And I see that Will's in the chat room too. Will, we just gave you a heads up for Wiedemeyer Academy. So if you guys are in the chat room watching the show, you can hit Will up right now to get out for that investigation. So without further ado, we have our very last NPS department chair on tonight. We missed him 2 weeks ago because my modem decided to crap out, so we were able to catch him back tonight. Will Crawford's on with us. Welcome, Will, to the show. How are you?
Fine.
That's all you're going to give me after all of that? Are you nervous?
No, it's one of those things where I spent years working a midnight shift, and I finally am in the private sector, and I'm used to going to bed early, and it's hard to be up past 10 now, as sad as that is to say at my age. It's harder to stay up late. I guess I am getting old finally.
You know, Wednesday's like the hump day, and it's the night that we do the show, so I know, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I can do whatever I want when I get home. And on the weeks when I don't have Paisley, I know I can go to bed early, but I swear, Wednesday is like the hardest night, and it's harder when I have her. So I kind of got her to bed a little early tonight. Normally she's sitting behind me or sitting on the couch waiting for me to get off the show. So I totally hear you on that. Totally hear you.
Yeah, I put my son to bed early as well, so I'm right there with you.
I need to put myself to bed early. We need to do something. Hey, I got to poke fun at something. Did you know that we were supposed to be at Dairy Queen tonight?
I heard that. I was really kind of disappointed we didn't all meet there.
I know. I really wanted a blizzard tonight. I'm kind of disappointed we didn't get it.
Hey, you're not cold enough in Italy, because it's cold as heck over here.
You know what? It's going to be cold enough tomorrow to be in the 30s here, so it's not going to be a blizzard per se, but it's going to be cold enough. So anyway, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody? NPS Department Chair for Resources. What else do you have going on your plate?
Well, really that's it. My prior history was over 11 years in law enforcement. A big chunk of that was spent, just like most people who were in law enforcement, driving around in a patrol car answering calls. But during that time period, I also worked as a crisis intervention team member, processed crime and death scenes, and those two aspects of that particular career were the things that when I got into paranormal investigations in 2007, really gave me a different perspective on how to conduct investigations. And I've kind of rolled that in as I moved forward over the past 6 years. And just last year, speaking with Candy, now our current director of NPS, about a vacancy that was available at that time. We began speaking about some of the issues and some of the ideas that we had, and she asked me if I would be interested in going forward and moving with the resources chair and try to give folks who are moving forward some different ideas as well as some different resources for them to look at. My biggest concerns have always been interview strategies when you move forward with an investigation and how to document them. And that's two things I've tried to bring to the NPS website with some of the articles that I've written.
Yeah, and we've had a couple of hiccups with the site the last couple of weeks, because I know last night I tried to go out there, as you know, and download some stuff, and it kept giving me a message, even though it wasn't giving everybody a message. But, you know, you guys, national-paranormal-society.org. Go out there in the departments, look at resources, and you'll see Will's page. There's a lot of good stuff out there. So, Will, I wanted to pick on you about your private investigator and your cop background. You know, we think about, well, let me back this up. You guys that watch TV see investigations done from a different perspective. You might see some provoking of spirit. You might see some really cool light-up gadgets used and that type of thing. But when you think about what we're really doing, we're investigating and we are researching and we're looking at the location that we're at and we're trying to find out what's there, why it's there, prove that it's there, all of these questions. And so, Will, it kind of goes back to your background of being an investigator, because you're looking more at the inquisitive side of things, the detective work side of things, and that type of thing. So when you got into being a paranormal investigator, was it an easy leap for you to be able to make, knowing what your background was?
I don't know if I'd use the word easy. I think some of the things I've done in the past certainly transitioned well into this particular field. And the biggest one was being a CIT member and trainer. And the Crisis Intervention Team, which was created back in '97 in Memphis, was designed to help people who are suffering from mental illness or periods of crisis have successful interactions with law enforcement. And what it really came down to is, how do you communicate? How do you listen? How do you work things out? And what I found was using a lot of those same verbal techniques, as well as some of the investigative techniques that are really used today in America's criminal investigators divisions, with how to more or less get information from folks that sometimes don't want to give it. Using those two skill sets together really made things happen for us quickly. My good friend David Dean and I both went over to Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in 2007, and we were like your typical guys who were just kind of interested in it. And we went, and it was a CAPS weekend. You could meet all the people there, and you could tour and spend the night in one of the alleged most haunted places in the United States, in western West Virginia. And we just spent that entire 4.5-hour trip on the way there talking about, you know, if you were there during this time period, how would you feel? What would you have thought about? What would your day have been like? And we just kicked that around for that entire guide. And we came up with 3 or 4 different ideas of things that we should pursue as our line of questioning: feeling isolated, feeling alone, feeling left behind. You know, those are horrible feelings for anyone to feel.
Absolutely.
And we just asked questions about those types of feelings that someone might actually have to live with living during that time period in that location for probably a good chunk, if not all of their life. And we had fantastic results, and after that we just decided to go forward and start conducting their own investigations.
You know, and you hit a very good point, because we think about going into these locations, and we might think about playing period music, and we might think about who the spirits are that are there. But, you know, to actually put yourself back in the time and the mindset of where those spirits may have been, I think that's key. And I think that's how some investigators actually get more of a response and more EVP work out of a lot of their investigations too, is having, I don't want to use the word compassion, but they have an understanding, or they have an empathy.
I want to stop you. I think you're right. I think it is compassion. Because let me tell you, having been the police officer that had to go up and talk someone from jumping down, people aren't going to not jump if you're being a command voice or the typical style that you might see from TV or people's own personal experiences with police enforcement. You have to have compassion. You have to care.
It's a connection.
The biggest thing I can say about communication is tone. Studies have shown consistently over and over again, it's not what's said, it's how it's said.
Absolutely.
And you can approach these things with the right tone. I think you will have a tremendous positive response with the living and your telling.
Well, and I think it has a lot to do with respect, too. I think we've got a lot of newbie investigators coming into the field. They've been watching Zach on Ghost Adventures, and they think they need to go in there and start poking the bear, so to speak. And I have found that if I go on location, and I don't even carry all my equipment in with me when I first go in. I take my camera, I walk around, I do my walkthrough pictures, I get a feel for things, and I just start having a conversation. I mean, I don't really make it known what I'm there to do, you know what I mean? I just start having a conversation, and it seems like since I have started doing that, I get a little bit more activity from it. And I think you can touch lives in a better way than that. And I say lives because spirits, most of these, used to be human.
I think another thing that I would really recommend to folks is, if you've never had any training, which most people don't, in investigating, you have to realize that the moment you set foot in any of these locations that you're investigating, that is your opportunity to start recording data, information, evidence.
Absolutely.
And you need to take advantage of it. Time and time again, I see people conducting investigations, and they'll turn their recorders off, or they'll take a break, or they'll move from room to room, and they'll turn their recorders off. One of the biggest things I try to impress upon people is the moment you're there, everyone gets together, you all turn your recorders on at the exact same time, and you don't turn them off until you leave. And the reason that you do that is that, one, you never want to miss an opportunity to catch evidence, and two, if you have 6 investigators and you all start your digital audio recorders or whatever your recording devices are at the same time, if Sherry notices that she has a possible EVP at 2 hours, 39 minutes, and 16 seconds, she can go to Candy and say, Candy, can I see your audio? Let me look at yours. What was it? Was it something else? Was it something that you did upstairs? Was it lose credibility because you can rule things out or actually find other audio recorders with even better evidence at that exact same time? You can isolate different parts of the building or the actual room it came from or the direction of the room. And I take advantage to collect evidence while you're there.
Well, it's all about debunking. And, I carry 2 recorders on me. People make fun of me for it. But I have one that is... Well, I carry 2 right now. I don't think I can handle 3. But I have one that as soon as I get on property, I start it. And I document where I am and the date. And I don't turn it off till I get back in the car. And then I have one that I do my burst EVP sessions with. And so I've got the 2 that I can go back to and I can make notes from. And I think what you're saying is smart. When you've got a lot of people there and you're all in the same room, if you can capture a certain moment, a certain timestamp, and go back, and I've caught it, you've caught it, Candy's caught it, then we've got something. But if only I've caught it and y'all haven't caught it, then we need to look at it. Or if we've all 3 caught it and one goes, oh yeah, by the way, that was the change in my pocket. It's easier to debunk, and I just don't think people think about that a lot. And it's the same thing with your camera pictures. People are posting pictures on the NPS page, and it's like, where are your before and after pictures? You're asking me if I see anything, and I've not been in your house. I've not been in your place of employment. I've not been to the location that you're at, so I really don't know what I'm looking at. Can you give me a point of reference? And people just don't get it. It's the same type of thing.
Well, it's a learning curve. And I think the longer people are in it, and the more people are willing to actually have credible evidence, the further people are willing to go. But the reason I actually take 3 recorders just with myself is I always have one that's actually on me. And then I set 2 in different parts of the room, and I notate which recorder's in what location. And it's become very helpful because as I go back and do evidence review, a lot of times I can actually figure out not only, is there what I consider to be a legitimate captured piece of audio phenomena, But
That's true.
where did it come from within the room? Because if it's on all three audio recorders, but it's strongest on audio recorder 2, which was in the northeast corner, the next time I go back there, I might want to focus on that corner.
Yeah, with your audio recorders doing that, do you also do that with your video recorders?
Video is a touchy subject for me because I love video. I have invested in a DVR system back in 2009 with the infrared cameras. I also just picked up one last year that's a light, pound and a half that I can actually just throw it right on my backpack. It's battery powered. It's fantastic. Single cameras are easy, but I'm sure you face this problem as most folks have in this particular field. Everyone loves to set up the cameras, and everyone loves to make sure things are working, but not everybody likes to actually watch all the camera footage. And, when you've got four plus cameras in 8 hours, that's a whole month of your life spent just watching the camera footage. So,
yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
you want to match everything up. My biggest thing with setting up, the DVR camera systems are, the second time we went to Bobby Mackey's, we had really put together detailed floor plans so that when we went back, we were able to actually have all of our cameras set up and where they were going to go, where the trials were from our previous investigation in about 20 minutes. So if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. You got to plan ahead.
Yeah, and we tell people, go out there and look at your place, that you're going to be investigating, research it, get a plan of attack. I mean, if you've got a 4-cam system and you've got a huge building that you're covering, that's just not going to work. That's common sense. So it's a lot that you've really got to, you can't just go by the seat of your pants with it. You really need to plan it out and know what you're going to do when you get on site. What's the history of the location? What are you asking for? What are you looking for? What are you relating back to?
And, that leads to several different topics. It's one of the articles that I wrote, the pre-investigation strategy. It's just like you said, it's everything from assessing not only the location and the history, but, I always want to assess the clients as well. I want to know what's gone on at that building. Has someone been in this building cooking meth, which is something that's come up before with a complaint that we had. You need to look at the whole picture. And a lot of times it does start with just getting 1 or 2 investigators out there with that pre-investigation walkthrough, assessment, and interview with the client.
Well, and it's exactly what we do for our privates. So why wouldn't we do that if you're going to, like your place, Bobby Mackey's or, any other large location? You treat it all the same. Yeah, it's fun to it's fun to run in there and, get caught up in the excitement of it, but it's still an investigation just like anything else. We need to treat it that way. I finally got to open up that spreadsheet. You sent me 2. And I actually opened up the one for Bobby Mackey's. And you guys, if y'all go out to the NPS website, you'll see this under the resources tab. This is a fantastic idea. You've got everything listed on here. And this is the kind of stuff that I do, but I do it on separate pieces of paper and I don't have it all together. This has it all together. And I love this because, like you said, when you go back to the same location, you can quickly review what you found the previous time and then add to it and know where to focus. So this is awesome. How did you come up with this?
Well, and I like to think I was a decent police officer, but I'm the first to say that, I didn't really become a good investigator until I began processing crime and death scenes, because every small, minute detail had to be documented. And working with that mindset, when I moved into this particular field, I wanted to make sure that, if you're going to have more than one audio recorder, it doesn't make sense for everyone to be doing things separately. You should overlap all of your evidence. That way, it does allow you that opportunity to debunk it and say, nope, that's not an EVP. That's actually the investigator on the far side of the room, David. And even though it sounds like this on this particular audio recorder, it's actually him saying, let me grab a chair, which happens to us once a day at Waverly Hills in the cafeteria. We were so sure we'd caught something incredible, but on the other audio recorder, it was very clear, had to toss it. But when the time comes that you do find that great piece of evidence, and the other audio recorders are actually able to help you prove, at least to yourself and to your other investigators, that it is legitimate. It's a fantastic feeling. But to do that, you've got to use a method. And I think a spreadsheet is just common sense. Most people have it on their laptops. It's easy to use. And what I tell people is, look, I'm not telling you how to do it. I'm sure not saying my way is the only way, but a spreadsheet like this is just really easy. It allows you to document, especially if you're in a big venue like a Waverly Hills or Trans-Allegheny or other large venue. It's nice because you can know, hey, there's 6 of us. I've got these 2 on the second floor. They're actually in this room right now because every time they go in the room, they say, now I'm in room 208. Yep. You can lay out where everyone is and what's going on at that exact time, and that's just really helpful.
Well, it just goes to thinking it out, being organized, and planning so that you can go back and officially debunk what you hear, what you see, and all of that. I think it's a better documentation layout, and it's something we don't talk about in the paranormal investigative techniques a whole lot, and you don't see a whole lot of teams do. I've seen teams go out and they don't even pull out a pen and piece of paper. I've got my notepad right there, and I'm I'm a note taker by heart anyway, but it's just, pull out pen and paper, pull out the laptop, type in your notes. Whatever it is that you need to do, that's being thorough. And I think a lot of that comes from your background, too, is being thorough in your investigations.
Well, the other part, too, is that, if you do have a strong team, everyone is willing to review their own audio without having to get together. They can do it, at home, or actually maybe they have a data entry job so they can actually listen while they're working.
Right.
If everyone uses the same format, then when you get them all back together submitted, you really cut and paste them all together until they make sense. Put them in chronological order. And now suddenly you've got everyone's together, and once again, you can send out that master copy back and say, hey, Candy, go back and listen to our, 2 hours, 39 minutes, and 17 seconds. See if you can find something on yours. And what was interesting is about more than half the time, when we ask people to go back and look at their audio recorders for things we found on ours, they actually will discover very faint EVP, almost hidden, that they had missed before because they just didn't know. But once we were able to key them in on that 10 seconds, they would find it. And that was always a great feeling.
They can get it. So I've got a question in the chat room from you. I saw it earlier, and I'm sorry I didn't address it earlier, but you're being asked, do you have a theory about how EVPs are created?
No. I think it's, I don't think it's possible at this point to have a really strong theory as to how they're created. There's so many different ones that we go into, and seriously, we just spend all night talking about that. No, I'm sorry, I don't. That's one that I just can't give you a particular theory on. It's too unknown. One thing I would like to point out for folks, and this is one that, and I'm like everyone else, if I'm sitting around Wednesday night, there's nothing else going on, I'll put on Ghost Hunters and watch cats like anyone else. I saw something tonight that reminded me, and I'm glad that I did see it. If you ever have a personal experience while you're out during an investigation, I really want to make this point. Go ahead and ask the question, was that you I just saw? Did you just touch my shoulder? Did you make that ball fly? Whatever it is that you think occurred, a great response instead of saying, hey, did you just see that? Is ask the question. And the reason I say that is that on 2 different occasions, once locally here in the Knoxville area and once at Waverly Hills, I thought that I'd seen a apparition manifestation. And in both of those particular cases, I asked the question, was that you that I just saw on the stairway? And the other one was that you I just saw by that column? And in both cases, I thought I had seen a female. And in both cases, I then captured an EVP of a female voice saying yes.
Oh, wow.
And so, is it proof? No, it's not. It's a personal experience. But when you have that little sliver of, backup, just that idea that if you ask that question and something does correspond to it, it's a great feeling. It gives me more belief in what I saw. And I would really recommend people to try that.
Well, and especially if you're doing live EVP. I don't know if you do that, but I do a lot of mine live EVP. And so if I hear that response back, do I think I heard something? I'm going to ask again, just like you said. Was that you? And if I think I get an answer back, was that a yes I heard? Was that you trying to communicate with me? That's why I like listening live a lot of times, because when you get home and you review, you're like, crap, I had a response. I could have asked some more to, confirm that response.
Absolutely. Always take advantage of your evidence. I personally don't do the live EEP simply because I think I would be so drawn into listening to the live that it would take away from the natural flow that I have with my own verbal strategies. So I don't do it, but I think it's a fantastic technique, and I know a lot of people have really good experiences because of it.
Yeah, and a lot of times, for me, it's depending on the research I've done on the location, depending on if it's a client location, what activity they've had, there's times I don't even do it. There's times I may do something else because maybe they haven't heard their name called, or maybe they haven't heard things going on. So maybe it's not as important for me to key in on that type of thing. Maybe I need to do something different. And so I always keep that in mind too. I mean, we're kind of creatures of habit and we do the same thing all the time, but sometimes that's not always applicable depending on the investigation that we're conducting.
Say another thing that I find just to be real pivotal, and it's true in law enforcement, and it certainly has carried over into the paranormal field for myself, is you'll work with a host of different people. You'll have your own team. But for myself, there's that one or two people that are just like almost the perfect partners out in the paranormal field. They almost are intuitive. They know what you're thinking. You can quickly run through different verbal techniques and they'll follow along with you. And they'll even take you in directions that you didn't think of. Trey and Dave, they're two guys I work with a lot. They're both fantastic. And Dave in particular, when we were trans-Allegheny, I was so focused on trying to make connection with possibly the patients that were there. And then David, out of nowhere, having worked previously in the medical field, he went straight to trying to talk to the doctors. And surprisingly, especially the administrators, and we were in the administrator's office, he had fantastic responses for about 34, 35 seconds. He had 4 or 5 different answers to his questions. It was amazing. So if you can find those good partners, that's one of the best kept secrets in any investigative skill set, is having someone that you're just in tune with and can run with you at the right time.
Absolutely. All right, I got another question for you out of the chat room. What advice, you guys keep typing and I'm trying to read. Hang on, because the chat room window keeps moving. Okay, what advice would you give someone just starting out in this field?
I would say the best thing that you can do is find yourself someone who is experienced in the field, who is willing to sort of take you under their wing. It's very common in law enforcement. There's usually something called a field training officer program. I think it's very true in the paranormal fields as well. There are usually experienced teams that are more than willing to help train newbies to kind of get their feet wet. Certainly, when David and I first started, we made a team, EPPRS, here out of Cleveland, Tennessee. Fantastic group, Tracy and Drew's group. They let us work with them off and on for a couple of years. And it was great because you got to see how they did things. And I don't care how good someone or a team is or how bad, you always learn something. And even if you're working with a particular group, it's good or bad, you'll learn either the right way to do things or the way to do things is better based upon something that you've seen. You go, it works for them, but it's just not my style. What can I do? And working with Tracy's group is fantastic. We met some incredible people. That's where I met Trey originally. And still work with some of those folks, and nothing but the highest respect and best things I can tell you about them. But find a good team, find a good group, find someone that can take you under their wing, and, if that's the right group and you stick with them forever, great. But if not, branch out in your community. The biggest thing is make connections, meet different people, try different techniques. I can't preach about that enough.
Well, and it's like me when I started off, I went out with whoever invited me and I learned different things of what to do, what not to do, how to kind of tweak it a little bit for me. And I think if you get a chance to go out, if you've got a team locally that's doing a public investigation, or if you've got a team that says, hey, we're going to be here, we'll be glad to take people, or if you just want to message that team. I mean, I've already had, and I'm so excited about this, I had a 15-year-old girl email the DNS page and ask if she could join us this summer to learn. And me, I've got young adults on my team. I'm going to take those teens underneath my wing. So don't be scared to reach out to some teams that you may admire, or they may use techniques that you want to learn, and just message them to say, hey, can I tag along and learn some techniques? More than likely, we're going to tell you, yeah, come along. And if they tell you no, move on. There's plenty more people out there that can help you with it.
Yeah, I think the only mistake is never changing, never looking for new things, being too stuck in your way. As an investigator, you've got to evolve. You've got to be willing to try new aspects, new theories, new investigative techniques, skill sets, equipment. As long as you're willing to do that, I think you're going to have success. If you're locked in or you work with a particular group that only does things one way and one way only, for me, being creative, I think it's too confining. Being willing to find something, always try something different.
Yep. Okay, so I've got two things for you in the chat room. One's going to kind of lighten the mood, and I'm going to call somebody out in the chat room. You guys ready for this? Y'all been giving me shit in the chat room. There's an individual in the chat room that wants to know if you are single.
I have a wonderful fiance.
They are like blowing up the chat room right now. They're like, is your wife there? Is he single? You guys are pathetic. See what I have to put up with on Wednesday nights?
What's really funny is, this was probably 2 or 3 years ago. Me and David, and we met with Dan Terry, some people know him as the Spook Stalker out in St. Louis, Missouri area. We went to Bobby Mackey's for the first time, and my fiance went with us, and she didn't really want to participate. Her only goal was, look, I'm going to sit in the lobby area and read a book. And so she was in there basically on her own reading a book. And Wanda Kay, who runs Bobby Mackey's, came out and looked at her and said, would you like me to turn a light on for you? Can you see? She's like, oh, no, I'm fine. And boom, right then immediately, the light over her head turned on all by itself. And Wanda is standing in the middle of the little pool room. There's no one who turned those lights on. It just appeared on its own. And she kind of looked around and said, I think I'm going to put my foot down and go see what the guys are doing. So, she's had a couple of those experiences. She's pretty good with it.
That is awesome. Will with Light Paranormal just mentioned in the chat room, we were talking about finding a team that does public investigations. DNS will be picking it up next month. You guys be watching for Crew Time. Light Paranormal is doing the same thing we're going to do, but they're doing it at the Wiedemeyer. And you guys, I cannot brag to you enough how active this location is. They are going to be starting off, Will, you didn't give me a date, but they're going to be starting to do Paranormal 101 classes at the Academy there in Belton. So you guys get over there to Light Paranormal and hook up with them. So if you're in the Central Texas area around Austin, Temple, Waco, it's still a decent drive if you guys want to get down there. If you're new to the field, if you want to learn from some really great investigators, Will's an awesome person to learn from, so you guys get down there and learn. And then we'll also be talking about it here in the Dallas area, some stuff DNS is going to be doing. So I wanted to kind of throw that out there too. Let's see. Did I see another question in here?
I did have one, Sherry, but it'd be easier for me to say it than type it.
Throw it out there.
Well, I was just curious, would you suggest to some, with the plethora of people that are beginning to come into the paranormal field, would it make more sense for them to invest their money in taking some beginning criminology courses as opposed to going out and spending thousands of dollars on equipment?
That's a great question. I don't think, in my particular view, going and taking criminology courses at a university or a community college is going to give you the skill sets that you need. And I'm not sure going and spending money on a lot of equipment is the right selection either. Once again, the best way I think you're going to learn is by seeing other people do it, and then developing your own style, figuring out what works for you. And this is going to sound horrible, but and I'm sure we've all been there. If you've ever been on an investigation with a bad team, or gone to a big haunted venue where maybe they have 100 people there spread out, and there's always a few folks there that are really bad. When you see folks like that, sometimes that's helpful because it teaches you what you can do right. It teaches you what not to do. And I don't want to, speak ill, but, sometimes seeing things wrong really convince you how to do things right. I think just getting a little experience is the best thing. If someone is really interested and wants to learn, really strong verbal techniques, though, there are some courses that if someone wants to send me on Facebook a message, I can recommend some stuff, but, those are not inexpensive. They are 3 days to a week long, And you've got to be willing to practice. I used to actually practice interviewing my steering wheel driving to and from work, just to put these verbal techniques down when I was actually working for a police department, because it was one of those things where you just had to very quickly and very fluidly be able to talk to folks and be able to basically solicit the right information. Pulling information out of people, it's an art. And, some people can do it naturally. Most people don't. It's got to be practiced. It's got to be practiced repetitive over and over and over again. You can, I guess my real point is, you can spend lots of money on equipment, and you can spend lots of money on trying to take courses. You just have to get there and get your feet wet. I think Sherry's idea earlier of finding a good team to work with is still the best.
Well, and the only reason, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the only reason I ask, Will, is because there's, like I said, I've seen enough people out in the field that are monkey see, monkey do from the TV shows. They can't even explain to you how their K2 works other than to hold the door open, because that's all I use them for. I mean, they can't even figure out their own equipment. So I figured if they at least had some beginning investigative skills, which I thought you could get in a criminology course, at least that would be a more valuable skill for the general public to have than what my experience and seeing has been. That's the only reason I asked.
Well, what I can say is, having a 4-year degree in criminal justice, having spent 26 weeks in the police academy in Tennessee, having gone through obtaining my private investigator's license, nothing taught me how to be an investigator like going out and working with one of the best police officers for the Memphis Police Department at that time, who was kind enough to take me under his wing and teach me how to do things, how to do it right, how to always ask, 25th alphabet, ask that question, why, the letter Y. You've got to figure out how to do it. You make a fantastic point. There are too many people that watch TV and just think they can go out there and the people that they've seen are going to have some type of luck. And, it doesn't happen that way. It's a skill set. It takes time to develop. I think it takes years to get your own down successfully. But, I see them all the time. One of my favorite things is while I love to go to these allegedly most haunted places in the U.S. and rent them out privately for a group, I also like to go when there's like the 50 or 100 people there. Sometimes I think those bigger groups bring more energy and possibly better results. And there's always some that are there, and it's sometimes frustrating. And sometimes I try to go and help people, give them suggestions. Some people are receptive, some people aren't. That's just life. Some people are going to get it, and some people aren't.
All right, so I got another question for you out of the chat room. The question is, what is your stand on taunting, as in provoking?
Well, and I'm the first to admit that when we first started, we certainly were more aggressive and certainly would do a little taunting. And as I got more into the field and decided we wanted to form our own team, actually go and investigate, help people when they wanted it, I certainly changed my mindset and now really tried not to taunt at all. Can you get results from it? Yes, you can. Can you get problems from it? Yes, you can. I've seen someone be attacked. It's not going to be productive the way that a little bit of interview strategy and having the right tone. If you know that you're going to an abandoned hospital where many people died, it's better to take that tone of, I hope you got to see your family. Did you ever get to see your children? Respectfully asking questions, opposed to, I bet you died here. I bet you were lonely. There's a nice way and a respectful way to do things, and you've got to do it right.
Well, and I think it goes back to what we were saying at the top of the hour about a little bit of compassion and respect. I mean, seriously. All right, Robin keeps talking about this barstool theory. Robin, you need to type it out. I need to know about this barstool theory is what she's calling it. So like walking up to somebody at the bar, come on. I got the single chicks in the room kind of keeping me in line over here.
I want to hear the barstool theory. That sounds interesting.
I know. I'm waiting for that. Okay, if you walked into a club and went up to a guy at the bar and talked to him like you talked to Ghost, barstool to the head. That is awesome. Okay, Barstool theory. We now have a new name for it, Will. It's the Barstool theory.
We'll keep it. We'll put it down.
That's awesome.
Sounds like a winner.
Okay, so here's a question for you. You know, we talked about what some suggestions were for eliciting responses, and provoking is not one of them. So let's say you've got a fairly new person that's always watched TV and always watched the ghost hunting shows, and they call you up and they're like, "Hey, Will, I see you guys are going out to Bobby Mackey's again. Can I tag along?" What are you going to tell them to bring with them when they come out to meet you for that investigation?
Well, and I have this going on right now for Old South Pittsburgh as well as for Hales Bar. I have, it's funny, being in the private sector now, I meet people all the time that once they hear I do this, they all want to come along, they all want to try it. So I look for people that are mature, respectful, and understand that, I'm not a master of this. I don't pretend to be. I'm interested. I'm a student of it. You never know what you're going to get. There's no guarantee. But if you're going to come along, then you're going to have to come along and do it my way just the first time till we see, how you are. The only thing I want you to bring is clear-headed, common sense, and like the Bobby Mackey's, I would say, look, here's what I'm going to do, because I've been there before. I'm going to give you a lot of information. I want you to go through the history of Pearl Bryant, of the slaughterhouse, of Red and all the guys that were there back during the 40s and 50s, as well as when it was back to the Cabana. Go through all this information, and I want you to write me 12 questions. 12 questions that you think are respectful and might get a response. And I want you to write them in a way that is open-ended. I don't want any whys, because let's be honest, how many words do you normally get that are likely enough to get an EVP response? 1, 2, maybe 3?
Yeah.
Asking why is crazy. You're not going to get a paragraph response, let's be honest. And I want you to ask it in 5 to 7 words. And the reason I say that is back during that crisis intervention time period, we were taught that people in crisis, they only hear a little bit, little snippets. And I like to think of the same thing in the paranormal field. If you're going to ask questions, keep it short.
Yeah.
Keep it short, keep it respectful, and then go back and I would look over those questions. And then there are some good ones. I would talk about why these, in my mind, are good, why I think they're going to be successful. And if I had some that were really bad or were very taunting, I would talk to them and say, you could have some repercussions from these and see what their mindsets are.
I think that's awesome. Because it really makes them think and focus on the investigation rather than the nifty little gadgets and the lights.
So let me ask this question for the folks that are on there streaming tonight. This is one of the things that is the most difficult for me if we're actually trying to help a client is, how many of you have gotten a request to go and help someone, and you go and you do a pre-assessment, you interview them, you check out the location, you go and run an investigation, but then later the client comes forth and tells you something that they purposely omitted that would have greatly affected your investigation. Like been trying to talk to the dead for 5 years, or they practiced some type of ritual which was intent on raising spirits or something odd like that, that may have affected your investigation. That's one thing for me that's hard is that, I just wish people would always be honest when you go for it.
Yeah, because, it's stuff that we need to know when we're investigating. So, you guys in the chat room, how do you guys look at that? Give us some feedback there. We'll let you guys answer while we keep talking, and we'll go back to it. Do you think... Oh, they're playing around in the chat room. You guys, pay attention. I need a bat, Eric. Oh Lord! Now they're apologizing for not paying attention. Well, the women are apologizing for not paying attention. Will from Light Paranormal is agreeing. See, why is it the guys pay attention while the girls are over there? Y'all quit filing your freaking nails. Yeah, here we go. The more info on the place, the better. And I totally agree with that.
I always try to make a point, especially if there's more than one person, is, interview everyone separately and then collectively. And each time I say, hey, look, if there's anything going on, anything that you don't want to talk to any other people, if there's something that we need to know that's going to help us, just, it's okay, you can tell us. And, time and time again, people are always reluctant to mention something. And then after you've gone and done the investigation, oh, by the way.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I might have needed to know that ahead of time.
Yeah, and that's when I'm like, didn't we have this conversation where I said,
yeah,
be honest?
Well, and Robin makes a good point. The medium should go in blindly. And I'm going to tell you right now, we have a client that we're working on that we went out there. I had the client give me all the information. I had a medium meet us out there who I totally wanted to go in with complete blinders on. So I gave her no information. I didn't even give her the client's name. I gave her an address, told her to be there. So I knew all the information for the client. I had my medium walk in, and we were able to click and connect on a bunch of things in there. And I also had my medium pick up on some stuff that my client hadn't revealed to me yet. And so when we sat down at the end of the read and we started kind of comparing notes across the board, the client was like, oh, well, I didn't think about that. Or I didn't think it was going to be that important. Well, there are some things that you might not think about that are important when we're looking at things that are going on in your home.
I think if you're lucky to have, someone that you have worked with in the past, experienced, trusted medium type, then you're just extremely fortunate. We don't work with them particularly in our group, but if you have that at your disposal, someone who's experienced and has proven themselves time and time again, I just think you're extremely blessed because it can't be anything but help.
Yeah, we've worked with a couple. We don't have one on the team per se, but I did run across one that she felt like she was getting a little rusty. So I'm like, okay, well, why don't you come on out and play? Polish up your skills here. And I tell you what, I was pretty impressed. I was very impressed. Selena was with me as well, and she and I both were just looking at each other. Our eyes were just huge as silver dollars because we were just like, she pinged it, and I'm looking at Selena. I'm like, okay, we've got to be quiet because we can't be confirming this stuff for her right there with just our facial expressions, that we were very, very happily surprised that we were able to take what the client had told us, tie it with what the medium had said, and be able to sit down and get even more information to help us kind of focus some things going forward and to apply towards their investigation that we have coming up. So that's key. That is very key. And for people out there that are, kind of watching the show, and whether you're an EB investigator or whether you've got some activity going on, even if you don't think it's important, you really need to mention it and tell us. And I don't care if it's something as small as, something that happened to you yesterday, to somebody that was in your house that did something, or, some little, oh yeah, I played with the Ouija board, whatever it is, we kind of need to know. We're not going to judge you on it, but we need to know when we're conducting our investigation what has happened. If another team's been out there, if they've blessed the house or what they've done, we need to know. People just don't get it. We need to know.
Information's power. That's something I've always believed in, and there's no doubt. If you have it, it's going to play to your hand.
My clients always make fun of me because I have a big, long questionnaire. And it's not that I'm playing 20 questions with you. It's just there's a lot of stuff that helps me remember to ask you things. So when I'm going down, it triggers not only me to ask you additional questions, but it triggers my clients to come forth with some more information. And when they see that it's in a written format, because I send them my questionnaire a day or two before I go out and meet with them, because I don't want them to be shocked or feel like I'm intruding on their privacy. I want them to be comfortable with what I'm going to ask. And I have found that they will be very forthcoming at that point. I really don't have to worry about too much being hidden. It's more or less hitting a reminder or a trigger that's going to remind them, oh yeah, and let me tell you this. And so it's worked pretty good. Let's see, we got a question here. What would you say would be the best time to do an investigation, as in day or night?
My personal opinion is nighttime. And I would say for this reason, now, there are always those isolated locations where they have more activity based upon the homeowners or the business or location owners, and they're able to give you that information. But, not getting too deeply into religion, not to upset anyone, but, I do believe there's a reason why, God created light and why he did it first. I think that certain things tend to stick to the darkness, and because of that, I think you have a greater opportunity during the nighttime to catch your evidence in your encounters with paranormal activity. That's just a personal feeling.
Well, have you ever had anybody, and I'm asking because I've kind of heard that you visit with your client or you visit with whoever's on location and you determine when most of the activity happens, and that's when you should go and investigate. You know, I think at night we don't have as many cars driving by, we don't have as many intrusions into the investigation and as much to have to debunk. But I kind of have to think too, you know, if it's more active during the day at night, why aren't we going out there during the day? So what's kind of your thought process on that as well?
Like I said in the very beginning, you have to listen to the client, and if they're very adamant, you know, we're having this particular activity and it's always at 3 o'clock during the daytime, I think you need to be there at 3.
Now, would you go back at night, though, like for a second? You see what I'm saying? If you go when they're having the most activity, would you go back? I mean, we all go at night, right? I mean, that's like the whole understood thing. If you went during the day, and I don't know how many investigations everybody does. I usually do 2 or 3 at a client's home because you never know when you're going to get activity. You may go and it's dead the first time. But would you go out the first time, let's say you did it around 3 o'clock because that's when the activity was, and let's say maybe you got a little bit or maybe you didn't. Would you plan on going back a second time at that same time, or would you at that point go, okay, let me go back at night because that's been a little bit more active for me based on past experience?
I think you're right. You know, if you have the opportunity to go multiple times and the client is advising you that the bulk of the activity is during the daytime, I do think you should go during that period surrounding that daytime, but I would definitely go back at night. I mean, there's just not a doubt in my mind with the activity that I've witnessed over the years. The nighttime is still the best.
Yeah, and see, and I kind of think that too. And I forget who it was, because we were talking about going to the location at night, and they were like, well, wait a minute, didn't your client say that most of the stuff's happening during the day? Why wouldn't you go during the day? And it just got me thinking, okay, you know what, they're kind of right. But then at the same time, who's to say I'm going to get something when I go visit at that time of the day?
This is the thing that I always think of. You know, think back to those primal feelings you had when you were a kid. You know, you're always afraid that something was under your bed. You always hear people, when you go and interview clients, it's in the closet, it's in the basement, it's in the attic. You know, those are places that are always perpetually dark.
True. Very true.
So, yeah, that mindset has always made me think that going at night is a better option because of that. But, you know, time and time again, it's in the closet. It's in the basement, you know.
Well, you know what, that kind of brings up a question. Do you think, and this is just kind of off the wall here, but, you know, we think of light and dark, and we think of good and evil. And a lot of times we think good is bright and evil is dark. Do you think that at some point we have been kind of conditioned to think that anything bad happens in the dark and not necessarily in the light? Do you think that's how we kind of attribute I only get scared at night because it's dark and I can't really see because there's no light? I mean, I'm just wondering.
No, I think you're hitting on a very interesting topic, and I think there is probably some conditioning that we are ingrained in very early, and also probably, you know, through some evolution where, you know, monkeys were afraid to sleep at night because that's when the reptiles would come out and go up in the trees and pull them down. But that brings up a topic that I think is really interesting. Let me ask you this question. So you're talking about light and dark, good and evil. Do you think there's things out there that are in between? In other words, not things that are truly evil, but, you know, I think of it like this. Think about a shark or an alligator or any type of predator. If you're being attacked by it, in your mindset, it's evil. But in their mindset, they're just trying to survive. Do you think there are things out there that may be in that realm of some type of predator-style manifestation, entity, whatever it may be, that isn't truly evil or labeled demonic, anything like that?
Oh, absolutely, I think there is. I absolutely think there is. You know, I have to go back and here we go. I'm probably going to offend somebody with my opinion, but, you know, I was born and raised a Christian, and I absolutely think that there is an in-between. I think, you know, you are comparing it to an animal that really can't put feeling and belief and experience behind what they do. They're out looking for food or whatnot. But as a person, and usually when we're out there and we're investigating and dealing with spirits that have been former humans, we all have a choice to control ourselves and control our actions. And so we have a tendency to kind of walk a fine line between being good, quote unquote, and being bad, quote unquote. Satan himself, and you guys, again, if I offend you, sorry, my belief, how I was raised, but Satan himself was once an angel up in heaven and was kicked out. So I think we really have to look at a whole circle of things when we're looking at light and dark, and when we're looking at, quote unquote, evil versus just maybe angry or pissed off as well.
Well, and I see now that Eric's put up Susan Dorsey's book that she consulted me on. This was writing a paranormal novel here in the Knoxville area. There's also another picture. I'm not sure if you put it up. The obsidian, if you can throw that one up. That is in my mind, probably the closest thing I've seen to that predator in the middle. And that particular item that you just put up, thank you, Eric, is actually it's a sculpture of something I witnessed, not on an investigation, actually at a friend's house, who, when I just formed my team, lives in the Knoxville area. I've known him for over 20 years. He said, when me and my wife first moved into this house, we actually had some really strange things happening. He began recounting some stories of, things getting knocked off the bookshelves and pictures getting thrown across the house. And we were just speaking about it. And after dinner, I actually saw this particular manifestation. And I remember very vividly when I saw it, my first question was, okay, obviously I need a CAT scan because I've got a brain tumor and I'm going crazy, because you don't see something that's 7.5 feet tall manifest in a well-lit, electrically lit room when the sun's up at 5:30 in the evening. But it was there for, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and it was an amazing sight to see, because usually, as your worship, if you're lucky enough to see something, it's that brief second. It's that fleeting moment as it whisks by. This was something that wanted itself to be seen and to show how big and bad it was.
Wow.
Being 7.5 feet tall and blocking out the light and the table that was behind it. And so, in my mind, I didn't get a bad feeling. I didn't get a good feeling. I wasn't scared. I was more just in awe than anything else. And, reliving that moment now, it still strikes me as being one of those things in between. It's just trying to make its way. Don't know what it was. Have no idea that it's in, but it was certainly an amazing moment. And having had the opportunity to go back over it a couple times and just take a little bit of equipment, caught some crazy EVPs over there.
Well, and it's kind of funny because everybody thinks that because they see something that's dark, it's evil. And I always tell people, you may get some responses. We always get the typical EVP response, get out. Well, I'm sorry. If you walked in my bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're interrupting my sleep, I might tell you to get out too. It doesn't mean I'm evil. I always try to tell people, look at their perspective. Don't jump to a conclusion. Ask all your questions and then look and see what it is. Because everybody loves to jump to something being demonic or evil. And I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I think it's become sensationalized, on TV now. And people always want to assume things. And I'm not trying to get into the religious debates. I know there can be a touchy subject. I do think there's good and bad. I do think there's good and evil. I do think there's probably some true demonic style things out there. Do I think it's as rampant as people claim it is? I wasn't there. I can't say for sure, but I would agree that a lot of people tend to label things demonic, and I'm not sure that's the case in my perspective.
Absolutely. Well, and people talk about fighting their own demons, their addictions, whether it's cigarette smoking or alcoholism or whatever. So I think everybody defines a demon differently as well. So and that's something else to think about too.
Great point.
So all right, well, let's wrap up the show. Tell people, in addition to being able to find you on NPS and on the website, where else can they find you on Facebook? Kind of give a shout out for your team.
www.hunterinthedarkness.com, one word. Definitely can go there and check out some of our previous investigations and some of the ones we have slated for 2014. Was speaking with Candy earlier this week. We're hoping to maybe set something up in the fall for NPS members as well, so I'll keep you briefed on that. And greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening, and thank you so much.
Well, I'm glad we got you rescheduled, and my freaking modem fried like 2 weeks ago, so that kind of screwed up things. But no, it's been great. You and I talk all the time via, text message on the Facebook, and we've never really got to, sit down and really talk. So it's been great for me too to kind of get to know you in this light as well.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
All right. Well, I'll see you on the NPS wall soon. So you have a good night and try to get some sleep.
I will. Won't be hard.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Good night, everybody. Thanks.
Night. All right, you guys, if y'all want to find Will, or if y'all have more questions for him, you can find him on the NPS wall, and you can also message him through the NPS site, the website there, which is national-paranormal-society.org, or you can get in touch with me, or he's on my friends list if you guys want to find him there. Next week, we have trouble brewing. Robin, we're going to have to censor the chat room maybe a little bit. I can't believe I got censored talking about badass earlier on the chat room. What's up with that? Anyway, we've got Robin next week. We're going to do some numerology. You guys, we're going to have fun. The first part of the show, kind of talking about it. Second half of the show, if you guys want to chime in on the chat room, or if you want to call in even, we might even open up the phone line for you to call in and ask some questions. So we got the troublemaker that's in the chat room going to be on the show, so this should be fun, so I'm looking forward to it. You guys want to give a shout out to our sponsors. If you want to have your information on the show at this point, let me know, because I'm still looking for some sponsors and we're still trying to get some things hooked up. So big shout out to Jeremy at Paranologies. You guys, if y'all have not seen the new 2014 TriCam, go check it out. I cannot wait. We are upgrading ours into one, and so we should have it within about a month. I'm hoping to have it and be able to start working with it. And it's a lot smaller, a lot more compact. It should be fun to take on investigations. So you guys check that out. He's got some other new stuff he's working on too, so get over there to the website or find him on Facebook. And I want to give a shout out to Scott Frederick, who I've been keeping busy with looking at photographs, thanks to all you guys posting on the NPS page. So make sure and go over and give him a like on Facebook as well, and check him out on the website. So until next week, you guys stay out of trouble, stay warm, and we're going to have fun on the show next week.